This is kanji in Danzan-Ryu Jujutsu. I'm your host, George Arrington. In this episode, we're continuing to look at the kanji in the Kiai No Maki. Part 2, we will deal with what are called oftentimes the strength arts. Here is a scroll that was given by Professor Okazaki to his students once they passed the second black belt level. Within this scroll is contained the Mokuroku, or catalog, of the system. In this and other videos in this series, we'll be looking at the Kiai No Maki, and this is the section from this particular scroll of those techniques. This video, we will be concentrating on these 4 techniques. Let's take a look again at Professor Okazaki's dojo. Here we see the boards on the front wall of the dojo, and let's pull out the Kiai No Maki board. Now, due to the resolution of this particular photograph, it's a little difficult to read what this says, but let me enhance that with some printing here. This says Kiai No Maki. The next one in bold says Tetsusen no Maki, and the word Tetsusen we'll deal with a little bit in the next video. Next we see Tanto no Maki, Daito no Maki, Bo no Maki, and Tanju no Maki. So those are the separate sections of the Kiai no Maki. So let's take a look at these first 4 techniques in the Kiai no Maki. Sometimes they're called the strength arts, although I don't think Professor Okazaki actually said that. I think that was said by someone else later on. But let's take a look at those 4 techniques. And here they are. This is the section from the Mokuroku that has those 4 techniques. The first one is Wari Bashi Ori. Next comes a strange kind of notation here that says kuden, or sometimes koden. We'll find out what that means. The next technique is karatakewari. Then comes harage ishiwari. And finally, shiraha watari. So let's take a look at the first technique. It's called Wari Bashi Ori. And first of all, here's I'll turn my laser pointer on. Here's the handwritten version of that from the scroll. This part says Wari. This part says Bashi or Hashi, if you want to use it by itself, Hashi or Ohashi. And then this is Ori, that character. The printed version looks something like this. Here's the printed version of Wari Bashi Ori, and then the phonetics, the hiragana, are Wari, Bashi, and Ori. Now, Wari means to split something. Like if you're going to split a log, then you would use this term for split. Bashi or Hashi means chopsticks. And then Ori means to break something. It can also mean to fold something. Now, this waribashi is a particular type of chopstick. If you go to a sushi restaurant, for instance, the sushi chef will present you with some sliced fish or rolled up fish, and you would eat them with the chopsticks. But normally at sushi places, you take a set of chopsticks that are in a paper sleeve. You pull them out of the paper sleeve, but they're together, so you have to split them apart with your hands, and that's the splittable chopsticks or the wari bashi. And as many of you know, they look something like this. So you take those, you split them apart. And then the ori, you take those and you would, in this particular technique, you would break one of those chopsticks with a piece of paper. Now, this ori, as I said, can mean to fold as well as to break something. In fact, if you take paper, which the term for paper is kami, and you fold it, the art of paper folding is ori, and we use the gami instead of kami, origami, and that looks something like this. So here is ori and gami, and we see an origami or origami paper crane right here. Now the strokes for each one of these characters is as follows. One, for wari, he goes 1, 2, 3 with a little hook on the end. So this is almost like our pot lid that we've seen in other characters. Then 4 goes horizontal, and then 5 goes vertical. A lot of times you would do all of the horizontal, in some characters you would do all of the horizontal part and then do the vertical. Be careful on this one, you do the first horizontal, then the vertical, and then the other 2 horizontal ones, 6, 7. And then below that, we draw a little box, which means mouth, 8, 9, 10. And then over to the right of the character, we have 11, and then 12 comes down with a little hook. 11 and 12 together imply a blade. Okay, so let's look at the bashi or hashi character. Okay, so you have these two things up at the top that almost look like each other. One is kind of bent inwards that way, and one's bent inwards that way. But let's see how you do that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And those two pieces right there, if taken alone, mean bamboo. And oftentimes chopsticks are made of bamboo, so it's natural to see that radical in this character. Okay, next is 7 and 8. You do a little cross there. And then 9 comes across like so. 10 comes down at a slant. And 11 is a little tick mark right there. Then 12 comes down. 13 goes across and then down. 14 and 15. So 12, 13, 14, 15, that particular character means sun. Then for ori, we have 1, 2 with a little hook, 3. Those 3 characters imply the character for a hand. And then 4, 5, 6, 7. Oftentimes when I'm writing this, I'll go 4, 5. Almost like one stroke, but it is 2 strokes. 1, 2, like that, or 4, 5. So I would not even pick up the brush for that. It would be what, like that. Keep the brush on the paper. Other parts of the character, you have to pick up the brush to complete it. Okay, so that is wari, bashi, ori. All right, after the wari, bashi, ori technique name, we see this notation that says kuden, or sometimes written as koden, or said as koden. What is this all about? Well, I'm going to try to explain what I think it's all about, and I'll try to give you some justification for that. Let's take a look. First off, let's look at the stroke order of these characters, okay? We come first down like so. This is the ku or kuchi. This is pronounced kuchi or ko. So it comes down, across and down, and then across, like so. That's the ku part, or the kuchi part of this. Then the next character, den, we come down like that at an angle, and then straight down. By the way, these first two strokes imply a person, a hito. That's what this means. Okay, then we come up here and we go 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 4, 5, 6, 7 make the character for sun that we saw earlier. But then you come straight down through that character and go actually below it a little bit. And then we come up with 9, and then 10 goes like that. But then we have this part. 11 comes across with a little curve there. 12 comes straight down with a hook on the bottom, and then 13 is a little mark there. Okay, so what does this mean? Well, the first character literally means mouth or oral. So if you want something that is spoken, you would use this character for oral, and that's what that means. The next character should be familiar to many of you. This is the den that's in Kodenkan, and this is the older version of that character. There is a simplified version of that character. I tend not to use that because I like the older character. But anyway, this is that character. That's the character that means transmission or tradition in some cases. And so what does this mean, the oral transmission? So we have the technique, which was wari bashi ori, and then we have this notation that says oral transmission. Okay, what does he mean by that? Well, taken together, oral transmission literally means mouth to ear. And we could even say mouth to ear only. And that implies possibly two things. The first thing that implies is that it's something secret. Okay, there's documented testimony from some students of Professor Okazaki that I've spoken to that say, you know, they were taught some techniques, and these were kuden, and so no notes were taken. And so they would rush home and make notes of everything that they remembered. So it could be that these are secret, not written down, mouth to ear only. So the other implication, which is the one that I think this one is that it was not demonstrated. This technique was not actually physically taught, but only described to the student. And I'll show you why I believe that that's the reason. Here we see the entire Kiai No Maki of that's in this particular scroll. At the top, we have Wari Bashi Ori right here, the one we talked about at some length. Below that, we have Kuden. Okay, why is it there? Well, I would ask the question, is this a secret technique? Is this some big secret that Professor Okazaki wants to keep hidden? And the answer to that is a resounding no. The technique of taking a chopstick and breaking it with a piece of paper is something that kids do, school kids do in Japan all the time. They learn that technique, and it's a big fun trick to do. Okay, is it a big secret? No, it isn't. So I believe that this is something that was simply just not shown to this particular student, but was described. I could be wrong there. I'm not 100% certain, but it makes more sense to me than saying that this is a big secret. Now, we can see another example of this in another earlier scroll. This one, which has the kuden after wari bashi ori. Here's wari bashi ori right here, wari bashi ori, and we see the kuden right there. So the difference with this one is that notice that on this one, on both of them, we see the wari bashi ori has kuden, but on this earlier scroll, we see it 4 more times. So it's my contention that these particular whole boards, the Tanto no Maki, the Daito no Maki, and let me highlight those. This is Tanto no Maki, this is Daito no Maki, this is Bo no Maki, and this is Tanju no Maki. That these were only described and not actually shown to this particular student. All right, let's take a look at kara takiwari. Kara takiwari. So here we have kara, take, and wari. Now we've seen wari before, so we'll mention that briefly. So what does this look like? Well, kara means Chinese. Specifically, it is the Tang dynasty of China. Um, the term, if you look at some of the old Korean writings, the form Tang Sudo is uses that particular character for tongue. This is bamboo, and as I mentioned earlier, we see this same character up at the top. If you look up at the top, right up in here, we see that the radical for this particular character, hashi, that we saw for chopsticks, contains the bamboo. And here's the bamboo character in its fullness. And then, of course, we saw wari, meaning to split. So here's the stroke order. We have our pot lid, 1, 2, and then 3 comes down like that. 4 comes over and then straight down. 5, 6, and then 7, like so. And then underneath we have this part, which remember what this means? That's right, it means mouth. So we go 8, 9, and 10. That's our little mouth right there. Now for bamboo, just 6 strokes, pretty simple. Almost the same on both with a little bit of a difference. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then now here's the difference. It comes down and there's a little kick. Now when we see that in the radical form, we don't have that little kick on this part, but we do in the full character. And then wari is 1, 2, 3 with a kick, 4, 5 vertical first, 6, 7, and then another mouth here, 8, 9, 10, and then this section 11 and 12. And do you remember what this section means? This means what? That's right, it means blade. So this means blade. Okay, now an interesting thing about the first character, kara. This says kara, and we know another familiar Japanese term that uses kara, and that is this name here, karate. Karate. So karate, or karate, as Westerners say, karate means this means hand, and this means empty, or it can mean sky. But in the case of karate, it means empty hand. But that's not the original version of what karate looked like. The original version was this: karate. And if you notice, this particular character is the same as this character, kara, which means Chinese. So in its original form, it meant China hand and not empty hand. And you say, well, so what? What does that have to do with the Danzan-Ryu system? Well, earlier in the scroll, Professor Okazaki wrote a little piece called his personal history. And in that, he said, here's what I include in my Danzan-Ryu system. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, and this. It says, Ryukyu no Karate Jutsu, which means the Ryukyu are the islands of the Ryukyu or the Okinawa. Okinawa, possessive particle. Karate, the China hand techniques. So the karate of Okinawa was included into his Danzan-Ryu system. And there it is right there. And you can see that that matches this character, matches this character, matches this character. And there is Te, which is right there. All right, next is Harage Shiwari. Harage Shiwari has these characters. Hara is this character, and it means abdomen. And one familiar term that people might know is this term, which is harakiri, the ritual suicide of the samurai. So that hara that we see in harakiri is here. By the way, if you change the order of these, it's pronounced seppuku. And so this is setsu and fuku. When you put them together, it's seppuku. That's often a better way of saying this than harakiri. Anyway, getting off the subject there. The next character is age, which means up or above or to lift. And we have the two lines here, which turns the ke into ge. So it's hara, it's age, age. Next we have ishi. This is I, shi, and that means a stone. And finally, we have our familiar wari, which you remember means to split. So hara, age, ishi, and wari. Now, that would be a clumsy way of saying that if you were Japanese. It would sound, like I say, clumsy to your ears to say hara, age, ishi, wari. Instead, what they do is they take the hara and the age and they put them together and shorten them to make harage. So it has the hara and the age all mixed together. So you say harage ishiwari and not hara age ishiwari. So let's look at the stroke order of these. The first character, hara, goes down, and then 2 goes over, down, and with a little hook on the end, and then with a horizontal 3 and 4. This particular radical can mean moon or can mean month, but in a lot of the contexts, this means meat or flesh. And whenever you see something like a body part or some kind of meat, you'll often see this particular radical used. So this is the meat radical. So the continue, it goes 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. By the way, those last 4 right there, do you remember what that means? That's right, it means sun. And then 11, 12, and 13, like that. So that's hara. Okay. The next one, as opposed this, the hara was 13 strokes. This one's very simple. It only has 3 strokes. So it goes 1, 2, and 3. So that means up or above. And the way to remember that is that this little 2 thing is above this one. Just a mnemonic device there. Okay. Stone, ishi, you go 1, 2, like so, and then draw a mouth. 3, 4, 5, like so. So that's ishi, or stone. And then, although we've done this a couple of times before, let's do it again. 1. This is for wadi, for split. 1, 2, 3 with a kick. 4, 5. Then 6, 7. Then a mouth. 8, 9, 10. And then our blade. 11, 12 comes down with a kick. And then the last technique we'll look at is called shiraha watari. Shiraha watari. Shira, this character, means white. So if you're going to describe something that's white, you would use this character. Ha means blade. And then watari means to transit or to cross over. If you're talking about a wagon going across a stream, or fording a stream, you would use the term watari. Okay, so what does all of this mean? Well, first of all, white blade, it's not a blade that is white. It is a blade that is unsheathed, or what they sometimes call a naked blade. You could think of this as a drawn sword. So it's sword that's out of the sheath and it's ready to go. So that's what shiraha means. So shiraha watari. Here's the stroke order. 1, and then you draw a sun figure here. 2, 3, 4, 5. And then for ha, it comes over, down, back at a little bit of an angle, and then with a kick at the end. Then 2 comes like so, and then 3 goes like so. And then for watari, you start with the water radical. This is the water radical here. 1, 2, and then this one goes up. 4, 5, and come back. 6 goes down with a slight curve. And then this next part is 7, 8, 9, 10. And then 11 goes straight across and then sweeps back like so. And then 12 goes down at an angle like so. By the way, this last part is like za and za. It's you should practice that. In all of these characters that I'm showing you, you should practice them. Take a piece of paper and write them out one after the other and fill the paper. And if you're still not familiar with it, do a couple more sheets of paper like that. So that's a good way to improve your kanji writing. Now, before I go, I want to show you 2 historic photographs and ask you a question about each. Okay, so here we have a picture of Professor Okazaki lying on the ground, and he's got on his belly, he's got a large rock. It's actually a lava rock. And standing above the rock with a sledgehammer in hand is one of his students, Tony Gonzalez, actually one of Wally J's students. And Tony Gonzalez is actually, his name was Antone Gonzalez. And he's getting ready to do something. So question number one is, what technique from the Kiai No Maki do you think this one is? Okay, the next picture, this comes from a book about the mind and body forging techniques of this man in the hat who's standing there. His name is Emma Shunichi, and it turns out that Professor Okazaki studied some of his techniques. It's documented that he did that. There's a picture of him performing some of Emma's techniques. But in this picture, it has Emma standing there with some kind of little rod in his hand, some kind of scepter, I guess. And then two of his students, one standing there, and then another of his students has climbed on the other guy's back. But did you notice what the guy's standing on? If you look closely, there are two swords with their blades, the sharpened parts pointed upwards, and he's actually standing on these blades. I wonder what technique this is. The translation of this scroll and a couple other scrolls, along with some of the pertinent documents from Danzan-Ryu, are translated in my book, Mokoroku and Kaiden Sho, the official documents of Danzan-Ryu Jujutsu. It's available on Amazon, and I encourage you to check it out. Well, thanks for watching this video, and watch out for the next video on the iron fan. See you next time.